It was dawn of July the 7th, 1937. The Japanese troops stationed near Wanping, southwest of Beijing, claimed one of their soldiers had gone missing and demanded to cross the bridge to enter the town. The request was rejected by the Kuomintang government. But despite this, the Japanese troops went ahead anyway and crossed into the town. Well, the bridge was actually 15 kilometers southwest of Beijing and served as a gateway to the city. Just 1 month later, Japanese troops took control of Beijing and then northern China. They were confident they would take down the entire country in just 3 months. Taking the initiative, the Kuomintang government opened a second front against the Japanese forces in Shanghai in August. This is the biggest and bloodiest battle of the war. It had already begun, and it started on the ground. But soon, the war moved to the air. Japan had been bombing the city every day since mid-August. A once glamorous city was reduced to rubble. As both sides threw in reinforcement, the street soon became a scene of crossfire and at times close combat. Feng Yuxiang, general of the Kuomintang army in Shanghai, saw the war as a big furnace that melted everything. But China's forces were no matches for Japan's armored divisions. After more than 60% of the elite troops had been deployed and 180,000 Chinese troops had died, the Kuomintang army retreated. Another 100,000 would be killed as they fled. And the 5-story Sihang warehouse became the last bastion for the Chinese troops. 800 Chinese soldiers were left behind to slow down the Japanese. They fought the aggressors until the very last bullet. This national flag was the only one flying in the city occupied by Japan. It was a message to the nation and also to the world. Although China has lost Shanghai, it is not ready to surrender and will keep on fighting. And from Shanghai, the Japanese troops swept straight through to Nanjing, 300 kilometers away, then the capital of the nationalist government. And it unfolds the darkest chapter of the invasion. December the 13th in 1937, massive slaughters began after the Japanese troops occupied the city. Thousands of Chinese men were transported outside the city before being killed there. Well, the Japanese soldiers came up with different ways of killing. They even launched killing competitions. Those who killed the most won. Life for the Chinese in the city was a nightmare. Drunken Japanese were roaming the city. They raped, murdered, looted, and set things on fire. At least 20,000 Chinese women were raped in the first 4 weeks. Some were even raped 10 to 20 times, and some even more. Not even pregnant women were spared. During the 6 weeks, 300,000 Chinese were put to death by the Japanese troops. They were men, women, the elderly, and children. After looting Nanjing, the troops set the city on fire. The air attack intensified in the same year. A 5.5-year bombing of Chongqing, the wartime capital, began in February 1938. From winter until late autumn, staying alert and hiding in tunnels were the part and parcel of everyday lives for some 1 million Chongqing citizens. Bombings on May the 3rd and 4th, 1939 saw the highest death toll. 5,000 lives were lost. Well, the worst didn't end there. On June the 5th, 1941, a 5-hour bombardment caused a stampede in the shelters. 2,500 people were suffocated. According to a staff of the city's air defense, the smell of the dead bodies seeped through the masks and made them sick. It took authorities 5 days and 20 trucks to transport all the bodies out. From the winter of 1938 to the summer of 1943, at least 12,000 people have lost their lives. While Chongqing was turned into debris, the city was still on its feet and continued to send hundreds of thousands of soldiers to the front line.